So obviously it's windy and cold and it sucks to sit around and do the classroom part. Mick did say that he'd have chairs. I'm sorry. I guess they didn't show up. I don't know.
Mick never said that. Don's trying to be mean.
This shit's really important. If you've never been through like a medical crisis due to whatever, combat, active shooter event, anything like that, hopefully you never do, but this shit's for real and it works, absolutely. The most tourniquets on the civilian side that I've put on have been vehicle accidents and like mid-shaft femur fractures or traumatic amputations for motorcycles. You know, those guys that like to do like 150 miles an hour on a motorcycle. We got to do it here before we do it out there. You know what I mean? Because then you're going to be shooting, being safe, accurate and all that. We got to practice the skills here. D-Dey Response Group, we basically specialize in the tac med stuff. I'm the co-founder, Don Deyo, and then Joel Gupton, and we work together in the military and overseas. Basically, after the military, I got in the fire department. Even before I left, I was in 20th Group, so I got to kind of work a lot of years as a lieutenant on the fire rescue side too. So you kind of got to see both sides, and what we try to do is mesh that together because there's a lot of things that really overlap, and it's really important. You know, there's still people on the civilian side that are like, don't use tourniquets. You put a tourniquet on, they're going to lose their arm or leg. And it's not true. So everybody who here right now carries a tourniquet on their body? Okay, good. Who feels proficient at saving a life with one?
Eric, shut up. You raise your hand for everything. I don't.
There's a lot of videos out there, and we've had them of people applying tourniquets in the field, mostly law enforcement. And most of them are doing a badass job. You know, they're saving more lives with tourniquets than anybody else out there on the civilian side because they're on scene first. There's a couple really good ones of officers that have shot suspects, and then of course they go up and apply the tourniquet. With all the videos and everything going on today, that's the right thing to do. There's a few of them out there, it's almost immediately, you'll see this blood is all over their hands. It's starting to coagulate. These tourniquets, these cat tourniquets are awesome, but they'll flip over on themselves. You know, when Murphy gets on your back with this stuff, I mean, you know, if you don't practice it, it's just like getting out on the range and putting rounds down range and keying in on those certain aspects of it that you need to. If you just say, yeah, I got it on my body, I'm telling you right now, if you don't work with that thing, it will eat you alive when you try to put it on. So has anybody had a situation where they've had to use a tourniquet or major traumatic incident that they had, you know, wish they had a tourniquet? So overseas, and what went, you know, what tourniquet, what, you know, was it an arm, leg?
Regular cat tourniquet on the leg. Iraqis come in the house and they don't kill the guy with the gun, they just wound him, and then, you know the whole story. They bypass and they basically caused a mess. The guy ended up losing his nut. They shot him in all kinds of places except for to finish him off. So we ended up having to save him, take him to the green zone, back when the green zone was still active. He hit the leg. We had to put a tourniquet. I was helping the medic. I was putting the tourniquet on there.
That's the exact situation of a law enforcement officer getting engaged with somebody who's trying to kill him, you know, and then boom, now we got everybody videoing it and their own body cam, you know, body cams are videoing it. So you gotta kind of step in. I think it's the same thing with everyday carry. If you're carrying a firearm and you don't have a tourniquet on you, or you have a tourniquet and you don't know how to use it, you're not proficient with it, I mean, you know, shame on the guy that in this day and age is doing that, because it might be you or your family, right? And that's something that it sucks. Everybody loses people, you know, at some point in their life, but you don't want to lose somebody and then know, man, I could have had that friggin' equipment with me. You know, I should have practiced it. I should have knew how to use it. It's just like walking around. They say like 80% of concealed weapon, you know, permit holders, you know, have damn near no training at all. You know, when you could pay 25 bucks at the gun show and pop in 2 rubber bullets into a barrel and awesome, man. You know, you're ready to rock and roll. So So pretty much just one incident and overseas, which that's what we get a lot of times. Not many people have had that kind of stuff happen. The goal today is to get everybody proficient. The main focus is going to be bleeding control. All right, and the reason is because that's the big preventable death thing. Roughly, give or take, 66% preventable death. On the civilian side, like 40% of trauma deaths are from bleeding out. We don't really see as much of it on the civilian side, but people don't like to use the word combat, in training and things like that in the civilian side. But what we talked about yesterday, Boston bombing, blast injuries. You need a tourniquet for stuff like that. You're gonna need to know how to do wound packing and pressure dressings, because that's the only thing that's gonna save people. A lot of people talk about the book answer, how long does it take somebody to bleed to death? 3 minutes. Okay, 2 to 3 minutes. There's several videos out there. There's a really good knife wound to the leg. As soon as the first drop of blood hits the ground, it's 34 seconds before the guy keels over. Now, he's not dead yet, but the key is that he's probably lost enough blood to, even if you get him to a hospital or a trauma center, he's never gonna leave. He's lost enough blood that he'll probably die in 2 or 3 weeks of end organ failure because his kidneys, shut down and all this. So when we train on this stuff, the tourniquets, we look at like 30 seconds. And I always say, I'd rather you do it in 20 to 25 seconds, even 29 seconds, and do it right the first time so you don't have to redo it, than do it in, 9 seconds, and you're like, still bleeding. I mean, that doesn't do anybody any good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it over to Joel, and he's gonna talk about the tourniquets and tourniquet application. The very first thing we're gonna focus on is tourniquets for arms and legs. After Joel runs through the tourniquets, we'll jump into junctional bleeds, where tourniquets, can't stop the bleeding. Neck, axillary, pelvis, areas that we can't use a tourniquet on. So.
All right, guys, once again, Joel Gupton. Anybody got any idea how long tourniquets have been out or people have been using them? Not necessarily these commercial ones that you see right now, but
2,000 years.
My man. So they found them in graves of Roman soldiers, and they were leather tourniquets, and it was not